Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kastuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to my living room filled with live people. Say what's up, everybody. We got our crew here for Ashram Week. Ashram Week is here. It's happening in full force. Everybody doing good? Yeah. You can't hear them, but they're like, yes, we're tired, but no, it's good. It's like living in an ashram here for the last 2 weeks. And more is to come in December. Keep your ears posted. We're going to announce new ashram weeks because we're having such good, everybody just feels good from it. We're like, okay, this is a good sign. We're trying to check our omens. And I think everything's working out good. Can an omen be good omen? Can you have a good omen, or are they all omens bad?
I think omens can be good, but the word ominous, I think, usually means negative. But I think omen can go either way, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
omens and omen's good. We had to mute out Mara today because of our feedback issues.
We can bring her back in for
Mara. Omen's good.
An event regarded as a portent of good or evil.
Good or evil. Okay, thank you, Mara.
But what about ominous?
Oh, I think ominous is only bad. Ominous giving the impression that something bad or unpleasant is going to happen.
Figure that out. Yeah. Okay, come on back, squirrel boy. I start you, I bait you. I'm a squirrel bait.
If I follow it, then I'm the squirrel.
All right, Kastuba, how are you doing? How you liking ashram?
I'm loving it. It's such sincere students. There's something. I'm just realizing that this process works. If you listen to Bhagavatam every day, no matter how unorthodox we present it, but it works. If you hear these truths and contemplate them on a daily basis, it changes the heart. And I see all these people that are here. They're just wonderful, sincere, eager. It's great.
Yeah, it's definitely 2.0, and yes, definitely we're a little unorthodox.
A little bit,
but not that much.
Not too much. Somehow. Well, let's see where it goes today.
Let's see where it goes. Maybe we can make it more unorthodox. So it is Yoda week. Every week we're doing a quote, a nugget. I don't know if there's any more announcements, Mary. I sort of just jumped over that.
Yeah. We have an asana class with Ariel Castillo right after the show today for our Patreon members at 7:15. And the Bhakti recovery group, the men meet at 1 and the women meet at 2 today.
Men meet at 1, women meet at 2. Okay. Alrighty.
All right.
Keep them separated.
You did that 2 weeks in a row. We're gonna.
I gotta do that every.
Don't ever have to do that again.
Okay. So it's Yoda week. We're doing quotes by Yoda. He's one of the great thinkers of our time. You might have heard of him. Actually, Star Wars in the future?
Must be. I don't think it's in the past.
He hasn't quite. He's not the great thinker of our time. He's a great thinker of the future. He's coming. Okay, this is Yoda. Speaking to the reflection of his own evil.
There's a dark inner Yoda, apparently.
Part of me you are, yes, but power over me you have not. Through patience and training, it is I who control you. Control over me you have not. My dark side you are. Reject you, I do.
Oh, nice.
So he's speaking to his own inner evil, huh?
Yes, apparently. I mean, again, I've never seen even one Star Wars film before.
Really? Even as a kid?
Nope. So I'm tempted to go and check him out, but this is what I picked up, that he was speaking to the reflection of his own evil.
My kids are totally into him.
Do you ever speak to the reflection of your own evil, Raghunath? Do you speak to it like Yoda?
I don't see it. No, I don't. I just see it as me, but I should probably see it as another entity.
Yeah, it has no control over you. Reject it, Raghunath.
And how do I reject it? Through patience and training. Thank you, Yoda.
Okay.
It's like the Yoga Sutras, isn't it?
Well, I was just this morning. I was doing just a little bit of research, trying to figure out more about Yoda and Star Wars and George Lucas.
That was your morning study.
It became it, yeah. And yeah, I think I got to dig a little bit more into it. But I find it very interesting. It seems like there was one quote that he said, like, it's all about Yoda. It's all about Yoda. It's all about Yoda. In other words, this whole story is all framed in such a way that it brings you to meditating on what Yoda has to say about life. That's what you're meant to walk away with.
Yoda
right?
Prabhu.
Yoda Prabhu. Yoda Maharaj.
Yoda Nath.
But he was definitely drawing from, apparently he's very close friends with Joseph Campbell, who's very much into these epic, these great Indian epics. He may see them as mythology, but like it's mythology with like powerful, important messages. So George Lucas was clearly drawing from them, maybe other stories as well. But it has to do with that inner mastery, apparently, right? To be a Jedi, it means, to tap into the higher power and so on, the Force. One needs to have self-discipline, self-control, overcome their lower nature. And so in one sense, that's all what yoga is about, right? It's about overcoming that lower nature and re-feeling the Force that we are part of, I suppose. I want to find out more about the Force and really what it means. Do you know very much about that? What the Force
well,
is?
I've studied the Yoda Sutras. You might have heard of that.
Okay. So then,
then
share with me.
That was it. I was just thought that you'd think that would be funny. Tiffany Chen wrote that on the board. And I don't, you know what? I don't know much about Yoda. I hate to say it, but I too am not fully initiated into that sampradaya of Yoda. My kids try to get me into it. I end up falling asleep. I think I own them all, but I fall asleep every time I watch them.
We got to bring in Ananda. I know is she here with us today? She knows this stuff.
Ananda Devi Donuts.
Ananda Devi,
I
yeah.
think she's fully
warrior
initiated.
sage yoga.
She might be a sannyasi in that movement.
But you know what here I like this quote, and I think that this is part of the beauty of these epics and part of the beauty of stories like Star Wars, although I haven't seen it, but I can sense it from the fans of it, that it's this engaging story. You get all wrapped up in it on an emotional level. You begin to identify and appreciate the characters, and then it begins to speak truth, and because your heart's open to it, that truth sinks in, and something within you says, I need to be more like that, right? And so here's Yoda, and he's saying, okay, even Yoda, this wise master, this is his internal life, right? That he's looking at his darker side. He's saying that you don't have power over me. I have power over you. I'm going to get this under control with patience and training, step by step. That's how it's not cheap. It doesn't come easy, but one has to look within themselves and see their own anger and see their own lust and see their own selfishness and callousness and cruelty. Look at it clearly, identify it, reject it. And it will take patience, and it will take training, and therefore we take up sadhana. Like, I guess one thing I find really interesting about it is that it's a romantic story, and one might go into a theater or watch it, at home, and be inspired by it. And as it's playing, one's being inspired by it as they're watching it, and then you step away from it, and then you're back in your old world, and it may just seem like oh, I wish I lived in that world, but I live in the mundane world where I just have to go, I'm not fighting to save some princess in outer space or something like that. I'm just going to work and dealing with the mundane issues that I have in life. But the fact is that these things should inspire us to take the stuff seriously. And the more that we do, the more the world becomes like an exciting adventure in a way, right? The more that this becomes a very real, like this battle becomes a very real battle. And it gives meaning to life, right? It takes a life that is mundane and it turns it into something transcendental and something wonderful. And you begin to feel it. And it does. I don't know if I want to go there again. If you promise me you won't sing, but it does light up your life, right? It does.
Yeah, it does. Won't do it.
Thank
Won't
you.
do it.
Although I was impressed with those lyrics, that they were quite
quite
good.
deep.
They were deep. They're deep.
Who
Anyway,
knows? Debbie Boone could have been inspired by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas.
it's possible. I mean, I don't even know if she wrote the song, but
Generally, back then they didn't write their own songs.
There
Isn't
was
that interesting?
there's more that's kind of just a performer.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah. Hmm?
all right, I'm not gonna comment on Yoda today.
Okay.
But let's get into the Bhagavatam.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome in the heart will become eradicated. The loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Chalakaya Chaksurunmadatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Mara, where are we at?
Reading from Canto 4, Chapter 24, Text 53.
Ooh, I was right on it.
Look at that.
Okay.
You ready? Who's speaking?
I don't know.
You know. I know you know.
Rewind.
It's your protector.
Lord Shiva.
That's right.
My dear Lord, those who desire to purify their existence must always engage in meditation upon your lotus feet, as described above. Those who are serious about executing their dharma and who want freedom from fear must take to this process of Bhakti-yoga.
There we go. Freedom from fear. We were talking about fear yesterday.
Yeah.
And you told me that you felt unheard, Raghunath.
Well, no.
Go ahead. You can share what
I was a little unheard. I was a little unheard.
Well, I was thinking about. I read something this morning in my Star Wars research.
Study.
Yeah, maybe I could. I don't know if I still have it open. Maybe I could pull it up. But this person was. Oh, I think I got it. He was. There's someone out there that's writing, some Star Wars fan, that's writing like essays on it, right? And posting them online. And he's
one of our people?
No, just like a Star Wars guy.
Blog.
Yeah, some blog guy. And he's saying that there's a misconception about Jedi teachings about emotions, regarding emotions, right? You were saying something, maybe you went unheard, but it sounded to me like you were saying that if you have children in this lifetime, it's not possible to be free of fear.
Perhaps it is, but in order to sort of like raise them, you have to think of the future. You have to sort of be in it. You have to be in.
You can't be emotionless.
You can't be emotionless if you want to give them that appropriate love of this world, which they're going to need to develop their more refined, dynamics in this world.
Okay. Have I heard you? Let me repeat back to you what you just. So you're telling me to be a healthy parent, and apparently Dharma, that's consistent with Dharma, being a healthy parent. you need to feel emotion, and one of those is certainly going to be fear. If you're actually feeling love for your children, it's natural that you're going to feel fear and worry about their welfare.
Yeah, it seems like that it should be. It can also be a healthy instinct.
Yes.
Hey, there's a guy walking down the street carrying an AK-47. Kids, get in the house. You know what I mean? Should I be just like, let's just go greet him. Let's garland him.
You have a problem with guns?
I don't.
Maybe he's protecting others with those guns. so anyway, so this is what this person he's writing, that there's a misconception about Jedi teachings about emotions. There is a misconception about the Jedi teachings about emotion. This guy needs an editor too. Emotions are advocating that these teachings are advocating the suppression of emotions like anger, fear, joy, love, and so on.
There's a guy just pontificating about Jedi theories.
He's thinking
on the
about this.
internet
Let's
on a
hand it to the guy.
blog.
Let's hand it to the guy. He's thinking deeply about it.
Let's just make this guy a devotee and save his life. He's worshiping Yoda.
You can't
Come
just
on.
make someone a devotee, brother. Nah.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You're a devotee now. Come
Okay.
on, stop worshiping these fictitious beings.
So in this post,
Worship our fantastic beings that we consider real.
okay, that's right. In this post,
I'm sound fictitious.
in this post, I'm going to explore Jedi philosophy concerning emotions and prove that their approach to life is leading to joy. And I'll use 3 major events. Okay. So then, but he gets to this point where he says, here's another quote from Yoda, right? Yoda instructs Luke about emotions. Anger, fear, aggression, the dark side of the Force are they. If once you start down the dark path,
Read it like Yoda. That's how it'll make sense.
I've never really heard Yoda, but if once you start down the dark path, forever it will dominate your destiny, consume you it will. All right.
Maybe the Ashram week should have Yoda night tonight. We just watch some Star Wars. Have a Star Wars binge watching. What do you guys think? Just Nate.
We're
just
getting very
Nate.
mixed. Yeah, Nate's
Just
into
Nate.
it.
Oh, all
Nobody
right, that
else.
sounds great. Rock'n'Off okayed it.
Okay. So he's saying, so he's quoted, I'll read the quote again. Anger, fear, aggression, the dark side of the Force are they. If once you start down the dark path, forever it will dominate your destiny, consume you it will. Therefore, the Jedi teachings are warning not to walk down the dark path. In order to know the good side from the bad, they advise members to be calm, at peace, passive. It's essential to point out calm, at peace, and passive are not identified with good. You with me now, Raghunath? This is the point. This is the point that he's saying that may relate to the discussion that we were having. He's saying it's essential to point out that calm, at peace, and passive are not identified with good, but rather it's the perfect state to know the difference between good and bad. Okay. So if we apply that to what we were talking about, or to the broader teachings, like again, here you have the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaking to Arjuna. On one hand, he's telling him to be a yogi, to be even-minded, right? Not to be controlled by these impulses in the mind, these emotions. On the other hand, he's telling him to fight in a battle with rage, like intensely, right? So maybe there's something that to what this blogger is onto, that it's not that every moment we're meant to be like an emotionalist Vulcan or whatever, but that we need to cultivate even-mindedness so that in moments of contemplation, we can see things clearly. And once we see them clearly, we can even respond emotionally. How do you like that?
I like that. You mean when it comes to sort of like when things come to sort of a boiling point, you're there, you're ready for it, you're prepared.
Yeah, either way, yes to that, or just that maybe we most commonly live in a state of calm, but there will be things.
That's not going to happen.
It could happen, but certainly we spend time and we cultivate time of calm, right, where that gives us the opportunity to see clearly, right, because emotion does cloud our ability to see clearly. So we need to cultivate peace so that we can see clearly and come to clear convictions. And then with those clear convictions, kind of rooted solidly in our mind, in our consciousness, we can respond to any circumstance well, and even emotionally well, but consistent with truth. You know, is that all right? Do you feel heard?
Yeah.
Do you feel okay?
Thank you.
Make sure you feel heard. Okay.
Okay.
So let's do the next verse then, huh? Well, why don't we read this verse again? Because I didn't fully take it. It mentioned fear, and it got me on that track.
Okay, again, Lord Shiva. My dear Lord, those who desire to purify their existence must always engage in meditation upon your lotus feet, as described above. Those who are serious about executing their dharma and who want freedom from fear must take to this process of Bhakti-yoga.
Okay, so this is.
I mean, I can understand. I'm not just trying to fight the verse here. I can understand, and I can see it in my own life how when you understand a greater picture of life, when those tragedies or those sinkholes of material existence happen, it frames it out. Okay, that's right. Everything is temporary. I don't own anything. We should be the best and the worst come in a moment. I get that. These are things that are underlying sort of like whispers in my ear. So I get it. It does frame it out. The soul is eternal. No one dies. The bodies are always dying. The bodies are always being born. So I get it out. And just knowing that,
Yeah.
it makes
a foundation, right? You build a foundation on that.
Foundation,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I was telling you, when my kids were little, my older stepkids were little, that I had them memorize shlokas. I told you this story once, but it really works. It's like by hearing truth on a regular basis, it affects you. And one of my kids, who was like 10 at the time, he had the Dehi no Sminyata Dehi Komaram Yovanam Jara. It's like learn a shloka. I would do this thing. You learn 10 shlokas, you get a present, something like that.
Okay.
And so anyway, he had the shlokas. And so one day they came back from a movie, and the movie, one of my kids was crying. I was like, what happened? Why is he crying? And my wife said, it was a really weird kids movie, but the hero kid died at the end, and it's really upsetting. And so he was just crying and crying, and the other kid came up to me and said, yeah, I'm not crying. And then he quoted this verse, which is, as the embodied soul continuously passes from this life, from childhood to youth to old age, the spirit similarly enters a new body at the time of death. Those who are wise are not bewildered by such a change. And I was thinking, wow, this is it. You hear truth on a regular basis, and you're going on through life, things are happening, and all of a sudden, boom, the carpet gets pulled out from underneath you. You're watching a movie, you're invested in the movie emotionally, and then all of a sudden, you break down. The hero dies. And then you have to apply knowledge to that, and then you become wise.
You reflect.
And then you reflect, and then you become this samadhi happens, this evenness of mind happens. And it all comes from this kid just practicing a shloka. That's
the training that Yoda is speaking about, right? When he talks about patience and training.
Yeah.
That's the training, right? You hear it, you contemplate it, you see the value in it, then you apply it as you go through life. You hit something, then you reflect on that knowledge that you heard, Shravanam and then Manana, right? Then you reflect on what you've heard, and it becomes, it may not be the first time that it takes root. It may not be the second or even the 10th or even the 50th time that you reflect on it, that it's really taken root, but it may be the 100th time or the 1000th time, but through this reflection on truth as we go through life, we begin to train the mind to see, to respond naturally and spontaneously in a way that's consistent with truth.
You know what? I'm after telling that story, I'm getting Tarun on shlokas today.
All right.
Okay.
He was trying to quiz me
yesterday. A piece of a shloka. It's not that hard. Kids can retain stuff quick.
Yeah. Could it work?
He wanted to watch a movie yesterday. I say, watch a movie? Okay, we're going to read about Gandhari. So he has all these. And now he's got a special incentive because he goes around. This is my 8-year-old. He goes around and he challenges all the devotees.
He challenges me yesterday.
He challenged you. And he says, okay, you get this wrong. Hey, he goes, hey, you want to do a trivia question? And Stu was like, yeah, sure. He goes, okay, if you get it wrong, you owe me $1. He's like,
I said to him, what if I get it right? And he said, well, Nothing.
Nothing.
Yes.
Nothing.
I said, oh, hold it. You can ask me anything right now.
Rachel owes him $3 right now. There's some pretty good questions about Kandari. But I tell you, those I highly recommend Amar Chitra Katha comic books
They're great.
because you really find some great details.
They got some great details.
Stuff about Kandari. Okay.
But hold it. But let's just two things. I want to mention, but one thing I did respond to you with that I believe means at least I heard you to some degree yesterday.
Okay.
Is that and in line with what we're discussing now is that it may be that some authentic spiritual paths, particularly Eastern spiritual paths, are actually kind of asking us to become largely emotionless. I don't know if I want to say entirely, but in other words, they're asking us to be even-minded under all circumstances, no matter what you're going through. Whereas in Bhakti Yoga, it's really all about emotion, right? It's just refining that emotion or directing that emotion properly. It's you know that you're achieving success in Bhakti Yoga when you start to cry, like when you chant the holy name and when you're feeling intense emotions, but rather than feeling them within the realm of illusion, you're feeling them within the realm of truth. You're feeling them for Sri Krishna, and through that, brothers.
Or like you were saying the other day, a friend of ours who couldn't really follow all the principles, but was crying about it.
Yeah.
Crying and say, I can't do this, but I feel like Krishna wants me to do it. And in that struggle, in that tension, there was love for Krishna. And
the Bhakti master recognizes, boom, oh, that's healthy,
and
right?
We were
there.
trying to what's wrong with this person? They can't follow these simple basic things. And he's like, no, this is actually this crying. We wish we could cry like this.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's what I want to share. But the other thing I want to share about this verse that we just read. Well, so again, let's understand the context right here, right? This is the text, Srimad Bhagavatam, where Vyasadeva, the author of all the Vedic literature, is taking great pains to clarify everything so that we get it straight. And he makes so he's taking Lord Shiva, a favorite amongst the monists. Right? They have a
monists love him.
Monists love him. Monists love him. Dualists love him. Everyone loves Lord Shiva, but particularly a lot of their meditations and so on have to do. A lot of his Shivites are monists, and probably vast majority. And what Vyasadeva has done here is he's taken Shiva himself, put him in this conclusive literature, and showing what his inner meditation is by showing this, providing this narration of Shiva training these yogis, right? Here's how I meditate. You can meditate like this too. And he's saying some really important things that are meant to clarify. Oh, Lord Shiva is saying this. What did Lord Shiva just say? Lord Shiva said that those who are serious about executing their occupational duties and who want freedom from fear must take to this process. What process? Bhakti Yoga. He says it specifically. The word's right there in the verse, right? Yad Bhakti Yoga Bhayadha, right? That he's saying that you must take to this practice of Bhakti Yoga. So let's try to understand, right, that this is, it's trying to help us. It's not sectarian. It's not putting down other systems at all, but it's saying that they're leading somewhere, right? And Lord Shiva is clarifying that for us. All right?
Beautiful. Okay. Continuing
text 54.
On to text 54. My dear Lord, the king in charge of the heavenly kingdom.
Who's that?
Indra. Okay. Is also desirous of obtaining the ultimate goal of life, devotional service.
Okay. So he's saying, even if the materialist, right? Lord Indra is, if you're interested in moksha, you're interested in the Upanishads, he's saying you're still meant to go to bhakti, right? Now he's saying King Indra, he's the most successful materialist. If there's anyone that's practiced the Vedic rituals and all of that, he's way up there.
Sit to the right, please. Here's Indra's about to take the throne.
And being religious and being dharmic to achieve this super high goal of heavenly pleasures, is saying even he is in that position where you think it's like, I did it, I achieved the ultimate goal. No, he's desiring bhakti too. He's saying, I'd be better off as a bhakti yogi. Mm-hmm. Okay.
My dear Lord, the king in charge of the heavenly kingdom, Indra, is also desirous of obtaining the ultimate goal of life, bhakti. Isn't it good to know that there's an ultimate goal of life?
I believe so.
We just spin around in the dark,
Yeah.
bumping into things. There's an
Mhm.
ultimate goal. There's a reason why we're here.
Yeah,
You need to
get a
hear that.
rudder and start heading in that
Yeah.
direction, right?
Similarly, you are the ultimate destination of those who identify themselves with you.
Okay,
Right.
so that now he talked about the karmis. Now he's talking about the gyanis.
Aham, right? And then they
Yeah.
put this verse in parentheses, Aham Brahmasmi, which is I am spirit. This is a
Yeah.
quote from the Vedanta Sutra. I guess it's probably an ancient quote.
Yeah, certainly.
However, it is very difficult for them to attain you, whereas a devotee can easily attain your lordship.
There you go. Now, sometimes I hear people say it's not that one path is easier than the other. Don't say that. Lord Shiva is saying that right here.
No, we're not saying it. Lord Shiva
Lord
is.
Shiva is saying it.
I'm not saying it.
Yeah.
And this is a great thing, like when giving class as well, is like we are not here to put forth, well, my opinion is that Bhakti Yoga is this, or my opinion is Raja Yoga is. We're not here to give our opinions. When we're sitting on the Vyasa-san or sitting on the raised platform, giving a class, our job is giving a yoga class. Our job is not to put forth our great opinion. Someone might ask us our opinion, but our job, especially as yoga teachers, is to present yoga as it's been taught. So I'm not giving an opinion that one path is more difficult than the other. We're telling about Lord Shiva's opinion in
That's
this
right.
particular.
He's giving, and Vyasadeva, who's the one that's written all the literature, is making sure that we hear Lord Shiva say this.
Mhm.
So we're also hearing Vyasadeva say the same thing. Now, let me ask you a question.
Let me
Roman.
ask you a question
All right.
about Gandhari.
About
Right? It's a
Gandhari.
trivia question.
For real?
Yes, it's really.
Do I owe you $1
Yeah.
if I get it wrong?
Who gave Gandhari
Yeah.
the blessing to have 100 sons? And
Ooh. I mean, I'd only be venturing a guess, and I guess I need to go back and study my comic books to make sure I get this right.
Study your comics.
I mean, I don't know, Durvasa.
Close.
Okay.
Lord Shiva and Vyasadeva. That's why I brought it up. They both gave her the blessing.
Oh, okay. And you say close because Lord Shiva and
Close. Well,
Durvasa.
close because Durvasa is a plenary portion of
Okay.
Lord Shiva.
So
But because
got
you
it.
just mentioned both those, I wouldn't have said it. I wouldn't have
All right.
squirreled this far. But
yeah,
you said both those names right after another, and we were just talking about
no
Gandhari.
harm, Raghunath. Now I have a question for you.
Okay.
Lord Shiva is saying that it's very difficult to attain this goal of he's saying that devotion to the lotus feet of Krishna is the ultimate destination. He's saying that it's wanted by Indra, who's the ultimate karmi, the person that's following the Vedic rituals. He wants to achieve it. He's saying that it's also for the monists, those that identify themselves with Krishna. In other words, those that think that I am God, I am
Right.
that energy. They also, it's the ultimate destination for them as well. He's saying, however, it's very difficult for them to attain you,
Mhm.
whereas for devotee, they can very easily attain you. Why is it easier through bhakti yoga?
Because it's done by the grace of the Lord.
Okay, I think that's one of the first. I was thinking two things. Yeah.
The idea is like a child. It's for a child. Say, okay, the child's hungry. You got to go out and figure out how to get some food. You got to go out forage. You got to go to the supermarket. You got to walk to the supermarket. You got to like say, here's some money. I know that's not real money, or that's just play money. Okay, got to find some real money. Got to work for it. And then the child can actually jump through all those hoops, purchase the macaroni and cheese or whatever they're getting, and then make their own food at home. Easier is to cry.
Right.
And the child cries, the mother goes out and gets the food for the child. So the bhakti yogis are in the lineage of crying out to God, and then the God comes to protect. Now the crying is also part of the path. We're crying out through song, we're crying out through mantra, we're crying out through our actions, we're crying out through our thoughts.
Yes. So that's a great point. And Mara, note that down. What easier to cry, right?
Easier to cry.
Maybe that's a tattoo right there.
Easier to cry.
Maybe right here. It's like with a little tear coming down. What do you think?
Maybe I should get a face tattoo, Mara. What do you think, Mara? People are doing it now. It's not a big deal. I remember like I was like in 8th grade and I would go to New York City and see all these kids with tattoos. I'd be like, oh my God, what about their future? What about their little did I know I'd be a professional hardcore guy all these
What if
years.
we've always been telling Mara needs a tattoo? What if she just came out with a heavy face tattoo right now? Like, just surprised.
People are
everyone.
doing it. It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal,
It's
Mara.
still, your kitchen would still thrive, Mara. It's not going to hurt your business.
Okay.
It might even enhance it, truthfully.
It might. Probably not.
You know what, though? Sometimes you get that tattoo and it's like, don't like it.
Do you?
Don't like it.
Which one, Raghunath? Which one? Yeah. The Heckle and Jekyll one?
Hey, don't say that.
Okay. Well,
One of
I
our
didn't say
listeners
it.
did
That's,
it.
That was okay. Well, anyway, that was Parmananda that said that.
Paramananda.
But you said it.
I have a tattoo of Garuda, and the first person I showed was Paramananda. And he goes, oh, pretty good. Heckle, when are you going to get Jekyll?
Oh man.
Oh, that
That
hurts. Someone makes fun of your tattoo. That's like, ouch. That's like making fun of your foot or something. Hey, or boy, your ear, one ear hangs lower than the other. That's one of those things you can't change.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
You can nowadays.
Yeah, I know. Tattoo removal.
Yeah. In any case, this is a
You can't
squirrel.
change your ears.
You gave one good reason.
Maybe
Can't
you
change
could.
your ears. You gave one good reason why it's said that Bhakti Yoga is easier than these other paths. It's because it's not on your own strength, right? The Ashtanga Yogi, they're doing it by their own yogic strength.
Yeah,
It's
there
so
is-
it's so dependent on their own strength, right? Jnana
Sure.
Yoga, similar. Whereas here, it's saying no. Ultimately, Krishna is the controller. He can make this possible for me easily. I just have to. I just have to demonstrate that it's all that I want. You know, that is what I desperately want. So that's one reason. And I think another reason is what we were discussing earlier, is that it doesn't demand external renunciation. It doesn't demand external, external renunciation of home and things and so on. And it doesn't demand one give up their emotions, right? It's just a question of re-engaging whatever you have, re-engaging whatever you feel, and redirecting it. So those are two reasons that came to my mind.
Me likey that.
Okay.
All right, where we at?
55.
My dear Lord, pure devotional service is even difficult for liberated persons to discharge. Interesting point here.
Mm-hmm.
There's liberated people that aren't bhakti yogis.
That's right.
Meaning they're liberated from their senses pulling them around. Like, someone coming up and say, hey, you want some pasta? And you're not even hungry. You're like, yes, I do. Right? There's people who are liberated that can say, no, I'm good. And they're not pulled around by their lower passions or their mind. My mind says I'm depressed today, so I'm going to be depressed. They'll say, oh, look how my mind is behaving, like a stormy cloud. I'm above that mind. There's people who are not pulled around by their senses and mind, and they're connected to spirit, and they see themselves as spirit, and they exist within that bliss. And that's a real bona fide thing.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
And so there's here it's saying, right. And right. Isn't, what's his name?
Who? Yoda.
No, not Yoda. The sage is Namasharanya. Shamakarishi. He's like, they're like these liberated persons.
Shaunakarishi.
All the sages listening to the Bhagavatam or he's speaking the Bhagavatam.
Shaunakarishi is asking the questions to Sutta Goswami, right?
Right.
Shamakarishi was the sage that
He's
got the snake from Pariksit Maharaj. That's Shamika.
No. The Shaunakarishi.
Shaunakarishi is asking the questions to Sutta
The
Goswami.
Sutta Goswami.
Shamika is the other.
So Shaunakarishi, they're all liberated sages, but they're not necessarily bhakti yogis at that point.
Yes.
Right.
Otherwise, there wouldn't have been all this confusion, right?
Yeah. So this is the thing. You can be liberated. I love the nuances of like spiritual life because people talk about spiritual life. They're like, I am God. I'm free. I am bliss. I am light. Yeah. We get that. This is bhakti. It's slightly different. So here are liberated persons. It's difficult for them to discharge devotional service, but devotional service can alone. Bhakti alone can satisfy the soul.
There's so much that could be said about that. Well, here it says that Bhakti alone satisfies Krishna, and then it says Bhakti alone satisfies. And you're saying, and not only you, but
Lord Shiva.
Sutta Goswami has.
I like to speak the same. If Lord Shiva says it, I'll say it.
Okay, but that's also where the Bhagavatam begins. Sutta Goswami's first response to the questions of those sages is that it's only Bhakti, which he identifies Bhakti as the Parodharma, the highest Dharma, and he says that only through Bhakti can one attain Atma supersidity, complete satisfaction of the soul.
Well, that's why sometimes once I handed a person that book, Krishna Consciousness, the Topmost Yoga System. Ever see that little?
Yeah, yeah.
Probably distributed a lot of those
Yeah,
books.
the
in
little
Shiva.
pink one with the
Yeah.
Paramatma on it.
Yes. And so the Topmost Yoga System. This sounds like, well, you're saying that because it's your
Right.
yoga system.
No.
And you're just selling your brand. It's not.
Lord Shiva's saying it.
Lord Shiva's saying it.
Sutta
Objectively
Goswami's
study
saying it. Vyasadeva is saying it.
It's because you
Krishna
actually
says it in the
you,
Gita.
you become liberated,
Yeah.
but then beyond liberation, it's like I got to the destination.
Yeah.
Now I'm going into the palace. I'm seeing the inner workings of the palace. I'm getting to know the owner of the home. That's what Bhakti-yoga is.
Nice point,
That was a
Raghunath.
nice little analogy I just made up on the spot.
Good one.
Huh?
Good one.
Keep it. You like it? You keep it.
Thank you.
You use it.
All right. So this is a very strong statement being made here. Lord Shiva is saying that, again, pure devotional service becomes difficult for even liberated persons if that's not if their intention is not there, right? But devotional service alone can satisfy Krishna. He's just not interested in anything. It's not money. He's not impressed with your renunciation, your austerity.
Yeah, he's not impressed. Isn't it interesting? You think,
Yeah.
well, like I'm going to give up this. I'm going to give up this. I'm going to give up this. If you're still doing it for you,
Yeah.
Krishna's because let's
Not-
face it,
yeah.
when you give up being attached to your tongue, belly, and genitals, when you give up not being attached to my mind, it's still so you don't have to deal with all the pain that your mind and senses cause you. Now that takes a long time just to get to that point.
Yes.
Most people think, well, I just got to work harder. It's not this woman. I've got to switch it to this woman. Maybe I got to switch it to this man. Maybe I got to switch it to this career. People are just lost in the world of bhakti, of material enjoyment. And then they get a little wise and they think, you know what? It's not stuff of this world. I got to go inside. I got to find the light within me. And then you jump through all these hoops. I cut relationships with my senses, and then I feel some inner bliss. I keep going down that path. I become a blissful being. And Krishna's saying, that's pretty interesting. Matter of fact, you're one of my favorites, right? Krishna says that in the 7th chapter. But you don't get me for that. It's not through that austerity that you purchase me. You purchase Krishna through love. So Krishna's right. Gyani Cha, what is that verse? The verse right before. Out of these 4, the Gyanis are the most dear to me. Right? They jump through all these hoops. They're not of this world.
Right.
But
But still, it's bhakti. That's the only thing that moves Krishna. And you know, like we're talking about Star Wars and how truths play out through through storytelling. But like, I think people, they understand this principle, right? And it plays out in these, like, say, romantic comedies. Commonly, there's this thing, you know, it's generally like the man is trying to win the love of the woman, right?
you have a romantic comedy of mine. Which one?
I don't have one in mind.
Come on.
Honestly, I don't. I wish I did. I wish I could pick one out
When
that
Harry met
perfectly.
Sally.
I have never seen it, but maybe
know
you
if
could
I
tell
have
me if
either. I'm not a movie guy.
Okay, but here's my point: is that
Husbands and Wives, Woody Allen. You've seen that one. That's a good one.
Woody Allen? Most of that I've seen, but I don't think I've seen that.
That's a very good one.
And it's a romantic comedy.
I don't know.
His romantic
What
comedy
you
is going to be
call
different than the comedy. In any case, here's my point: is that the guy's trying to win the love of the girl.
it.
And he's trying to do it one way and he's trying to do it another way and he's not getting it. Oh, okay, let's go with Groundhog Day, right?
On a squirrel, Woody Allen is very Krishna conscious without Krishna. Do you find that?
Not always, but sometimes.
Well, I mean, he talks about these real sort of like life issues and
He's very good at that.
right existential thought.
Yes.
and brings up these real
But
things that we
he's-
struggle with in this world.
But he's seeing the world as meaningless. Like he's
Right.
struggling with
He
seeing the world as
switches
meaningless.
to existentialism,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
we take it to God.
Okay.
But he's noticing the things that people practicing bhakti notice. That why are you pursuing this? This will never fulfill you.
And then, of course, he gave our devotees a cameo appearance.
Oh yeah. What?
I think it was Annie Hall, but I'm not
It might have
sure.
been Annie Hall when all the devotees were. That's
Yeah,
amazing. All the
yeah.
devotees were on a Woody Allen movie once. They were all
Well,
doing
it
Cheer
was
Talk on a
actually
Farm.
Nayana Baram, someone that we know,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah, Nayana Baram, I know
he's
well.
kind of reaching. They're at Sheep's Meadow, which is like just basically my backyard, right, or my front
Yeah.
yard, whatever you want to call it.
And Woody Allen was struggling with the purpose of
I think he
life.
just came from an appointment with his doctor or something like. Was that right? Maybe.
Yes, and Nayana Baram goes, "Here, read these books."
They're talking over the fence and they're explaining, kind of calmly explaining Bhakti philosophy to him, and he's kind of taking it in. Okay, here, give these books a read, and then he's walking away, but immediately he's getting all mental now. Right?
It was amazing
As soon as
how
he
that-
stepped away from the devotee, he got all mental.
Very interesting too.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if Woody Allen actually, after the show, took that book, read the book.
I'd
Could've saved him a
imagine
lot of
he has to
problems
some
in his career.
in
Could've saved
his
him a
life,
lot of
maybe in
problems
his
in his-
life. Okay, but I said let's go with Groundhog Day. Okay, so in Groundhog Day you have this guy. His lower nature is kind of controlling him, right? And he's in this weird vortex where he's repeating the day every day. But what he's trying to do is win the love of this particular woman, and he's trying it this way and he's trying it that way, and she's not impressed with any of these different ways, right? But only when he begins to act from a place of love does she actually respond. Okay. And so here what's being told to us is, yes, Vyasadeva's given us tons of literature with many different yogic processes, different principles like austerity, different principles like renunciation, learning, vidya, all these things that are good, they're dharmic, they're valuable, but they don't touch Krishna's heart. And the only thing that touches Krishna's heart is bhakti. Is the only thing that touches him is pure love. So Lord Shiva says it right here, right? But devotional service alone can satisfy you. It's a principle that's truth that's naturally playing out through thinkers who become writers and script writers and so on. Now here comes a very heavy statement. Shiva says, he says, kaha, right? Kaha.
Aha.
Who?
Ooh.
Right? He's going to say, who is that person? Who will take to other processes of self? It sounds sectarian, but again, it's Vyasadeva himself taking it from the mouth of Lord Shiva, putting it in our face in the most conclusive literature so that we get it. Lord Shiva himself is going to say, who will take to other processes of self-realization if they're actually serious about the perfection of life? We're not saying it. Lord Shiva said it. Vyasadeva said
Lord
it.
Shiva's saying
Okay, it's not that these other
Vyasadeva is saying
processes
it.
are not valid. It's not that people that are practicing them aren't good people, aren't impressive people in so many ways. But what Vyasadeva is saying, what Shiva is saying, is that its value is when it leads to get to the ultimate destination. It will have to eventually, that path will have to connect or lead to bhakti.
That's why the first person that surrenders to Krishna, right? The distress, like we were talking to Jiva about the Bhakti recovery group, people come to God,
Yeah.
almost like slingshotted to God, because they've sort of been
By the
tumbled
distress.
by the waves of material existence so bad that they've hit a bottom, and from that bottom they can spring up towards the right. It's hard to get up to the top of the water if you're just can't reach the bottom, but once you hit the bottom, then you know which way is the ground and which way is up. I can't go down anymore.
Mhm.
So in that great distress, that's another incredible springboard for pure devotional service. And that's why they say that people who go through that 12-step program, they thank their addiction, they thank their pain, they thank all that distress, all that, tabernacle of sorts.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
joking.
the tabernacle.
All that hell they went through, because it brought them to some light in their life.
It was I'm forgetting exactly what he said it, but it was
Upcycle that word. No one uses it anyway.
tabernacle. The
Just
Mormons use it big time.
They use it every year, don't
They
they?
use it every day. They go into their tabernacle choir.
Choir.
Yeah,
What choir?
Well,
Tabernacle choir.
And the tabernacle choirs, because they have a I can't even say it, tabernacle. Maybe that's why it's not so popular. It's a little hard to say. Tabernacle. They have their tabernacle, which they
Mormons
go
are quite interesting people.
to. They are.
Do you know Mormons?
Do I know any friends?
Very interesting guys.
I've met many of them.
Yeah.
I've met many. I've been to the tabernacle,
Oh,
and I've
really?
been to their what do they call it? Like their guests thing that they put you through there.
You know, one of their main books, the Doctrine of Covenants,
Whoa, they were,
I know my
the Doctrine of Covenants.
Doctrine of Covenants. They
Yeah.
were the golden plates found in upstate
Yes,
New
by
York.
Joseph Smith.
They're around somewhere around here.
Oh,
They found. Imagine that.
That's why the Mormons, because they found golden plates,
and they found,
and
like,
not only did they find them, they found them in my area.
Yeah, they did. They found this area, golden plates, and then they had a code ring of sorts where you could decipher what it was because it was written in some ancient language. So they say.
Okay.
And then they disappeared, of course.
Do you believe it's true, Raghunath? Is
Do
it
I
all
believe it's
true?
Could be.
Okay.
I don't know,
All
but I
right.
could be.
All right.
And you know what Dr. Covenant said?
What?
It said that meat eating should only be done in times of total necessity.
Nice. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. And I'll say this: I don't know. I've at some point I picked up the Book of Mormon, looked through it a bit, and so on. I don't really want to comment on whether I think the whole thing is made
Jesus
up or
came
this
to
or that.
America.
But
It's part
I'll
of the
say this:
theory.
I've been impressed with Mormon people.
I've been impressed with their behavior.
So there must be some truth that they're connecting to. Whether the whole thing is true or not, that's another question. But I do think that they are in touch with truth on some level, and I'm impressed with their behavior in many ways. You know, they're like kind of like there's a goodness in them. There's a sattvic quality within them. I've noticed widely. You know, it's almost like you don't meet. I'm sure you do, but like I don't say I can have ever met a Mormon that was impolite or crude or
They're out there.
nasty.
But
They must be. There has to be.
There has to be a
There
bad
has to be a
Mormon
bad
out
Mormon.
there.
Mayor, note that there has to be a bad Mormon
Has
out
to be
there.
a more-
But I haven't met them yet. You know.
The
So
ones I know are great.
and when you go to Salt Lake City, it's like everyone is really like they're really kind of like polite. You know.
They're kind of polite. It's a polite town.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're out of time. We're gonna.
You got to read the Doctrine of Covenants. It'll be like
Okay, I'll put it on my list.
put it on your summer reading list.
Okay, we just heard that Ted Kaczynski was a Mormon for a while, so there you go.
Kaczynski, he's what the
Was he a mass murderer or something like that?
no, he was maybe he was the
The
Unabomber. Ted
Unabomber?
Kaczynski?
Yeah.
That was the Unabomber. Yeah.
Stephen
He was-
Covey.
Oh,
Stephen Covey.
Mayor
was
speaking.
a-
You gotta
Unmute Mara.
unmute Mayor.
Sorry.
We weren't hearing you, Mayor. Others were, but we weren't.
The chat board said
What were
that
you saying?
Stephen
Okay.
Covey's a Mormon.
Stephen
There-
Covey's a Mormon.
Yeah, but he's a good guy, right?
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a
Pointing
good
out what
guy.
good guys.
Got some bad.
We're looking
guys.
for a bad
Google-
Mormon, Mayor.
Google
Not a
up
good one.
There's
A
only
bad
one.
Evil
There's
Mormon
only one.
to see what comes up.
evil Mormon. There you go.
There's gotta be a couple good ones. We know there's some evil Christians out there. Like, they're not Christians. That's the thing. They're not Christians. They're just.
They are Christians, I thought.
No, I'm just saying. No, I'm saying if you're googling up evil Christians, then they're not Christians.
Oh, in that sense, okay.
Right.
Well, then maybe they're not Mormons if they're
Well, that's what I'm saying too. They're not evil Mormons, but.
Mara.
Mara.
Takeaways. Reject your inner evil through patience and training.
Yeah.
It's Yoda.
Yes.
Hear
Yoda.
truth on a regular basis to provide foundation for life.
Yeah.
Bhakti-yoga is all about refining and directing emotions.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone loves Shiva.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Hear wisdom, contemplate, and apply.
Except Daksha. Daksha had a problem with Shiva. But in the end, I think he did too.
Yeah.
So- Okay. Sorry.
It's easier to cry.
It's easier to cry.
That sounds like a
Song.
Smith song or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yes.
You can't win. You can't win.
Krishna.
You can't win Krishna through austerity.
That's true.
That could be a Smith songs too.
Act from love.
That could be a Smith song too.
And-
Act from love. Act from love because. Okay, go on.
And tap into higher power through the Yoda Sutras.
Ooh, alrighty. Thank you, Mayor, for that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, people who joined late today. Like what we're doing.
Oh, hold it. We got to clarify something right now. It was not Ted Kaczynski. I got that wrong. There was a Mormon serial killer, though. I
Okay.
forget his name, says John Burke.
It was not.
We're spreading misinformation right
That
now.
was misinformation. I think a lot of those things that come out of my mouth are misinformation. It's not like it's like I don't, not on purpose. I'm just misinformed or I forget things. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. If you like what we're doing, this is a community supported podcast. Please We really appreciate those who have supported us. Go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. That's how we keep this thing going. So if you like what we do, you know, whatever, skip a cup of coffee once a day at Starbucks and throw that towards the Raghu and Kastuba Fund, Wisdom of the Sages Fund, disseminating transcendental knowledge. Thanks to everybody who's already doing that. And then there's a bunch of Patreon goodies you get. Archives of classes and workshops and yoga stuff and info on our Patreon page. I want to thank everybody here for joining us. If you want to join us live on Zoom, you can. Email Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. And also, if you want to take part in any other ashram week coming up, email bhaktiretreats108@gmail.com. It's all going up. Check out me and Kastuba in India this year. It's happening in next year, January. We're on for a wisdom training. Also, 300-hour Bhakti-yoga. 300-hour Bhakti-yoga. What do we call it again?
Teacher training.
300-hour cultural immersion in India, as well as Kirtan School happening in India. So check out my website for that. Everything's going up this week. Ted Bundy the morning.